Ian Castleberry joining the Wise Guys for our NFL Gold Nuggets feature. And boy, have we got a few things to get to. But before we hit the gridiron, we need to hit the ball field before we go around the NFL baseball trade deadline, which is tomorrow, I believe, at 4 o'clock. It's been fairly quiet this week. I mean, there have been trades, but no big names. Is that about to change, do you think, in the next 24 hours?
I think it is going to change. There was a relatively big name traded last night. Joey Gallo traded from the Texas Rangers to the New York Yankees. Kind of a surprising deal there because the Yankees, I mean, their offense has struggled all season long, but, they already had sluggers, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton. Joey Gallo gives them another big bat. The big difference, he's left-handed, and you think Yankee Stadium is ideally tailored to his swing. So the Yankees had to give up 4 top prospects. At least 3 of them they're in the lower levels of the minor leagues, but very promising in terms of talent. But yes, we could see. I think Max Scherzer could definitely be dealt by tomorrow. Trevor Story, the Colorado Rockies shortstop, former Asheville tourist. He's among the names that could go. Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo from the Cubs, Jose Barrios from the Twins. And before that, there have been a lot of smaller deals, names that might not be noticed by the casual baseball fan or unless you really follow baseball closely. But a lot of utility-type infielders, relievers. We're going to see plenty more relievers, I think, go back and forth. The teams are always looking for bullpen help as they ready for a division title run or the playoffs. So, I think we will see some action over the next 24 hours.
All right, check that out for sure. Darn it, we'll be off tomorrow, but we'll be following it. And Ian, we'll be back with you on Monday to recap some of the big trades if they come down in the next 24 hours. All right, now let's get to our NFL Gold Nuggets feature presented by DC Creasman Jewelers. All right, so A-Rod returns to Green Bay, and what's interesting, the Pacs seem to finally be listening to him when he's like, hey, I need some wide receivers, and it looks like they've reunited him with one of his key receivers from the not-so-distant past, Ian.
Yeah, this is sort of a weird request from Aaron Rodgers. Supposedly this is one of the conditions he's set in agreeing to report to training camp and work out contract terms with the Green Bay Packers. But Aaron Rodgers really wanted his former receiver, Randall Cobb, back. So as we often joke on Twitter, find a friend, find a coworker who loves you the way Aaron Rodgers apparently loves Randall Cobb. Cobb, he played 8 seasons with the Packers, very successful. He wasn't their number one receiver, but Aaron Rodgers in his press conference yesterday, meeting with the media before training camp, expressed some frustration with some of the veteran and core players that he thought the team shouldn't have cut or traded. Randall Cobb, obviously one of them. He was let go after the 2018 season. He's had success with Green Bay. 470 catches, more than 5,500 yards, 44 touchdowns. His best season was 2014, which was a while ago. 91 catches, nearly 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns. But I think over the past 2, maybe 3 seasons, the Packers have had trouble finding a quality number 2 receiver behind Davante Adams. They have Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Alan Lazard also was a contributor, but maybe the Packers or Aaron Rodgers especially felt that they needed a more dependable presence in the slot. And Randall Cobb, we'll give them that. He only played 10 games last year due to a toe injury, but he's under contract 2 more years for, I believe, $18 million altogether. So that gives Aaron Rodgers another target. Everything to make Aaron Rodgers happy, and bringing in Randall Cobb was apparently part of that.
Yeah, Mike Gore, do you agree that? And I like Cobb. I like this addition opposite Davante Adams. Go ahead and double team Davante Adams. I think Cobb is going to have a comeback year with Green Bay. But do you think it's basically Super Bowl or bust for this Packers team with A-Rod? I got to think it's just sticking around for one more year.
Well, they've been to the NFC Championship game 2 straight years, so. It'll be interesting to see if this move does put them over, or if Aaron Rodgers is halfway out the door. That's I mean, he could be there in body, but not in spirit. So This will be an interesting season to see how it goes. Now, maybe once the season starts, he'll get going and just have a great year. He's had, like I said, the past 2 years they've knocked on the door. Really should have gone to the Super Bowl last year, but had some really costly turnovers and didn't take advantage of 3 interceptions by Tom Brady in that game, and they couldn't take advantage of it. And they really would have had a great chance to win the Super Bowl. But this certainly seems like Aaron's not doesn't want to stay there for a long time. But getting Randall Cobb, you got to. With all that went on in the offseason, I think you need to make Aaron Rodgers happy, and looks like they sort of made him happy.
Yeah, they kind of met him halfway. Ian Castleberry joining us on the D.C. Creasman Jewelers Wives Lines, and our thanks to David and the gang at D.C. Creasman Jewelers for bringing us our NFL Gold Nuggets feature. Lamar Jackson, Ian, is out of camp due to a positive test for COVID. Ooh, fabulous. And Ian, looks like the league's worst passing attack is going to have to wait just a little bit more to get better. This is a little bit concerning. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think it is a concern. The Ravens had the last ranking number 32 in the NFL in passing yards. As a team, they passed for fewer than 3,000 yards. I mean, compare that to Mike's Bills. They passed for 4,800 yards. The Chiefs led the NFL with 5,000 passing yards. So, 2,000 yards less than 2 of their top rivals in the AFC. Now, to be fair, they also rushed for 3,000 yards, which easily led the NFL. But the Ravens have taken steps to upgrade that passing attack. They drafted Rashad Bateman. They signed Sammy Watkins as a free agent. They brought in offensive lineman Alejandro Villanueva, Kevin Zeitler to emphasize pass protection. And this is the time when a quarterback's getting familiar with his receivers, with new schemes. Training camp, if you're not going to do that in training camp, when are you going to do it? So Lamar Jackson being out for at least 10 days per the NFL's COVID-19 protocols, he's going to miss 8 practices. That doesn't sound like a lot, but, training camp isn't that long. 8 practices really can go a long way. So maybe Jackson and the receivers put in some work during mini camp, so maybe this isn't quite as drastic as we might make it out to be. But, you see quarterbacks like Tom Brady, Josh Allen with the Bills receivers, getting that time in with your receivers, whether it's in a formal camp situation or even, on their own personal time, getting to know each other. I think that's extremely important. So it does have to be a concern, I think, for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, one of the keys to the Bills' success last year was that Josh Allen, and Stephon Diggs and some of the other Bills receivers went down to Florida and worked out for a while, and the Bills didn't have too many different players from their team in 2019 to 2020. Continuity means everything, and yes, for him to be out at this time, this really could be a problem for them.
This is like the one team that needed their quarterback to be in camp full time to work on the chemistry with the receivers. We'll see. We'll see the benefit or the misbenefit of this in the regular season. All right, Ian. Speaking of COVID, some players are not happy with the NFL's new COVID policy, and I will admit the fact that the NFL will be penalizing the team and the players, penalizing players of the team that did not cause a cancellation. I think it's a bit of an overreach, but where's the Players Association on this? Correct me if I'm wrong. I've not seen or heard anything from them.
Well, the Players Association president, J.C. Treader, is taking particular issue with some teams making unvaccinated players wear wristbands during training camp at the team's complex. And he's arguing that this is making unvaccinated players, kind of shaming them in front of the rest of the team and really possibly creating division between vaccinated and unvaccinated players, which seems unnecessary because unvaccinated players already have to wear masks around the facility. In any situation where there's practice lifting weights, unless it's a situation where it's deemed that wearing a mask might somehow inhibit performance. But I kind of side with the NFL on this. I mean, maybe they're trying to have it both ways. You're saying, okay, the players are free to not be vaccinated, respecting what is quote-unquote a personal choice, a personal choice that affects other people. I don't know how you can really call that a personal choice, but that's probably a whole other segment. But the Players Association appears to be on board with these COVID protocols to a point, to the point where you're singling players out, putting, almost like a scarlet letter on them with these wristbands saying that they're not vaccinated. This isn't a league policy. These are certain teams are enforcing these policies. The Cleveland Browns, for instance, Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, saying he wasn't going to do that. He didn't want an issue like this to possibly divide his team.
It makes sense, Michael. What do you think of the NFL's policy and what I was referring to, like the opposing team that did not cause the cancellation? If it gets to that point, I don't think it's fair that they be penalized by not being, basically having a game check taken away. What do they have to do with that?
We've talked about this. I know I go into my Bills mode here early, but, last year Buffalo goes to Tennessee, unbeaten at 4-0, was supposed to play on a Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and the game eventually was on Tuesday, and it got postponed. Then it was supposed to be played Monday. Then, well, it depends what the Titans. How many of the Titans were tested properly, and so the game was up in the air until Tuesday morning. Then they went out and they beat the Bills' butts pretty good. But I just have to wonder if that game had been played when it was supposed to be on Sunday, if it had been a different game. So, but I understand that last year you couldn't do that with this, but I think everybody's been warned, and I think that this is the way to do it. And get vaccinated. Just get vaccinated. That includes Cole Beasley.
We'll get with Cole Beasley in a moment. So, Mike, you would have been okay then if last year the Bills, let's say they had to cancel that game under this year's rules, you would have been okay with the players not being given a game check, being penalized for that?
Yes, I would have been.
Oh, wow, okay. See, I just feel like that's a little, you can't fault the opposing team that had nothing to do with this. It's almost like penalizing people who are vaccinated on that sense. But, the NFL Players Association, I think for the most part, they do get it. And I just think this is adult peer pressure by the NFL. You want to be, I'm not going to get vaccinated. Your whole team's looking at you like, dude, I don't want to lose a game check here. All right, so let's move on to the Big Easy as we're joined by Ian Castleberry for our NFL Gold Nuggets feature presented by David Kreisman and DC Kreisman Jewelers. Hey, Ian, why is Saints coach Sean Payton frustrated with his wide receiver, one of the better ones, Michael Thomas?
Michael Thomas is unavailable for training camp and apparently is going to be unavailable early on in the season. It's uncertain how many games Thomas will miss, but Michael Thomas had ankle surgery in June after the team's minicamp. He had strained ligaments in his, more than one apparently, in his ankle, and this was a problem for Thomas throughout the season. He did not have a season worthy of being the top paid receiver in the NFL, one of the best at his position. So Peyton's frustrated that Thomas is going to be unavailable. However, it sounds like this was a decision made with Thomas and the team. I think the thought was avoid surgery, see if it heals during the off season, with rehabilitation and rest. They had the mini camp and Thomas was still having problems with the ankle, and the decision was made to have surgery. So this wasn't a case where, you've seen in basketball or people who remember The Last Dance, Scottie Pippen refusing to have surgery during the summer because he didn't want to cut his off season short, rehabbing from a knee injury, or Shaquille O'Neal, having a knee surgery, but saying, he got hurt on company time, so he's going to have surgery on company time. This doesn't seem to be that sort of situation. Again, General Manager Mickey Loomis seemed to defend Michael Thomas in having surgery when he did, but obviously Sean Payton frustrated that the team's best receiver won't be available for training camp when they're breaking in new quarterbacks with, not completely breaking in, Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, familiar with the Saints offense, but this will be the first year that one of those guys is the starter and won't have their number one wide receiver available.
Yeah, the Saints are the biggest question mark, I think, in the NFL heading into the season. Now, Ian, this is an interesting story, guys. Former Panthers and Bills wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin, who had hooked up with the Giants, and they were trying to convert him into a tight end. He's a big dude, 6'5", about 240, 250. Well, it looks like he was released by the Giants, and Ian, not a kind parting of words for head coach Joe Judge. What was Benjamin's beef with the Judge?
Well, Benjamin is saying that the Giants, head coach Joe Judge, general manager Dave Gettleman, fined Benjamin for reporting to camp overweight. And Benjamin was saying, well, I'm converting to tight end. Yes, I'm going to be heavier, putting on muscle and so forth, trying to be a tight end. But apparently he surpassed whatever limit the Giants set on him. I think it was 265 pounds. Or no, he reported at 251 pounds when he was 265 at spring minicamp. So I don't know exactly what number the Giants set for him, but he weighed less, according to Benjamin, than he did in minicamp. So Benjamin's big problem is that Judge hashed this out with Benjamin or made it an issue publicly in front of the team on the field rather than privately in his office. Benjamin apparently thought, this was an attempt to make an example of him, humiliate him, and just created a bad situation over what could have been relatively quiet.
Yeah, I mean, there may be a point there. I mean, Kelvin Benjamin's always been a bit of a problem child anyway, and weight issues have been a problem for him. Of course, as you're saying, he's coming in lighter than he was in the spring workouts. But I can kind of see his point there. It's like, you got to take that in the office and talk to him about it. But, coaches embarrass players in front of teammates all the time. Not saying it's right, but it happens.
He stunk for the Bills, so
here we go.
And I think there's two sides of this story, but he's the Panthers gave up on him, and then the Bills, Josh Allen's rookie year when they had no weapons, he was like it, and the Bills still got rid of him. So that speaks volumes about him. So I'm sure there are two sides of this story.
All right, well let's get into one of my favorite parts when we hang out with Mr. Gore, and that is, of course, the Mike Gore Bills takeover question. So here we go.
The Bills make me wanna shout, kick your heels up and shout, throw your hands up and shout, throw your head back and shout. Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now.
Yeah, all right, here we go. Cole Beasley. Good Lord. Here we go, fellas. So Bills receiver Cole Beasley clarified his comments on why he is refusing to get vaccinated. I think he did. I'm not really sure why he will not get vaccinated. Ian, what's he saying?
He's saying that he's not anti or pro-vaccine, that he favors being allowed to have the choice as to whether or not he's not having the vaccine. I think if you haven't gotten vaccinated, you're probably anti-vaccine, Cole. But maybe that's just my way of reading it. But his issue, as he says it, is he doesn't think that the NFL has provided enough information to give unvaccinated players a realistic choice as to whether or not to be vaccinated, and has kind of created the division we're talking about between vaccinated and unvaccinated players on a roster. I'm so sick of Cole Beasley already.
Me too, dude.
Mike, what do you think about this? Because it just makes me want to bang my head.
I mean, it's a cop-out statement, quite frankly. You've got the CDC. You've got how about quit listening to disinformation and misinformation, Cole, and listen to what the CDC has to say. It's right there for you. Go ahead.
And this long statement he has, which I've tried to read a couple of times and just kind of get glassy-eyed after a while, but he says, every doctor I've gone to with questions begins every sentence with, from what we know now, which tells me we don't know enough, like 650,000 people dead, what does that tell you, Cole? I mean, I just hope
Science isn't indefinite. I mean, this whole thing is new. There's new information all the time. I mean, yes, we were told different things about wearing masks at the beginning of the pandemic, although that was more of a supply issue than whether or not we should mask up. As doctors and scientists are learning more about the virus, the variants, how it's transmitted and stuff, yes, information is going to change. But apparently, for people like Cole Beasley, you got to set forth right away and declare the way things are going to be, and they shouldn't change. And if there is any alteration or change whatsoever, that's flip-flopping and not a definite policy that anybody should follow.
Yeah. This is, and Cole better be careful here, because the Bills might, they've built a great culture there. And we talked about Isaiah McKenzie a few weeks ago and would fit in perfectly into Beasley. And the Bills just might say, hey, sorry, Cole, we appreciate your contributions, but we can't have this dividing our team. I mean, Stephon Diggs is some of his quotes were like, well, I think we need to all be vaccinated, and that's kind of one of the leaders of the team saying that. Like I said, I don't want to see this Bills team divided because of this, and I could just see them saying, thanks, we'll see you, cut and bye. And this is a cold-hearted business, and if the Bills feel like this is going to be disruptive, we'll just put Isaiah McKenzie, good luck, and we'll see who signs you. We'll see who signs you, Cole, with this kind of situation.
Yeah, no doubt. Wow, some great stuff to get to, guys. Ian, can't thank you enough, buddy. As always, Ian Castleberry writes for thecomeback.com, awfulannouncing.com, and we're lucky to have Ian with us doing radio hits for baseball and NFL updates. Appreciate you, buddy. Have a great rest of the week.
All right, happy NBA draft day, guys. Very excited about Kate Cunningham becoming a Detroit Piston.
To the Motor City. Good luck, buddy. Have a beer with us, okay?
2004, here we come. 2004, here we come.
Oh, stop that. See you, buddy. Ian Castleberry with the Wise Guys. Of course, Ian's appearance is part of our NFL Gold Nuggets feature presented by David Creasman and DC Creasman Jewelers.